What's going on, guys? It's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, I wanted to bring you dudes an analysis towards the most recent Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory trailer. The big thick boy 3-minute final trailer that released not too long back that gives us really a better idea as to kind of how things work as well as the different systems that will be in place for this game. I think we really needed a trailer like this to show us a lot more gameplay, to give us a sort of better idea as to exactly what is thrown into this package. As I know that there are kind of a lot of people that are either confused or you're just a little bit worried in the sense of the content side of things towards this game. As of course, this will be a full price Kingdom Hearts title, considering the fact that it isn't actually a traditional Kingdom Hearts game, with it being a rhythm-based action game. There is quite a lot to actually unpack out of the 3 minutes that we got recently, so without further ado, let's just dive straight into it. The first thing that I definitely do want to start off by saying is this trailer is actually dubbed as the final trailer for Melody of Memory, via the message that we got from Tetsuya Nomura over on Twitter, as well as the actual Japanese version that was uploaded to YouTube is called Final Trailer. I know that the global version of the trailer is rather called just Release Date Announcement Trailer, but this will probably be the very final trailer that we get for Melody of Memory, or at the very least the final substantial trailer for the game. I do feel as if we may potentially get a launch trailer of sorts, but it'll probably just reiterate over stuff that we've already seen throughout the 2 different trailers that we've got so far. Before we get right into the actual analysis, I do want to mention that I will be using some of the trophy information to help me better understand some of the stuff that we have seen via the gameplay footage throughout these trailers. So just letting you guys know, again, there are no story-related spoilers within the trophy information whatsoever. It's just using this information will help me get a better understanding as to exactly how some of these gameplay systems work. So let's start this analysis off by talking about the world map portion that we got to see in the trailer, as this actually does give us a good idea as to the direction in which the progression will work for this game. So Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is literally going to take us back through the entire Kingdom Hearts adventure from Saga 1, leading all the way up to that of Kingdom Hearts 3. It doesn't seem like it's going to be via the chronological story order, but rather the order of game releases, which pretty much means that most of the tracks that have appeared throughout pretty much all of the Kingdom Hearts games will act as an actual world or mission. As we saw in the very initial Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory trailer, we start off by literally starting in Destiny Islands and working our way through as if we were in Kingdom Hearts 1. We then see in this trailer, obviously Hollow Bastion, the end of the world portion in Destiny Islands, and then comes to a fork in the road where we either go to Castle Oblivion or make our way forward to Twilight Town. Now, I'm not sure if you'll actually have to veer off and go through the Chain of Memories portion to then, of course, unlock maybe some gate that is then in the way blocking the path of the Kingdom Hearts 2 direction. It makes sense if the game is going to follow that chronological layout, keeping in mind that the footage that we're seeing in these trailers are progressed save files, so of course there could be things on the map that are not appearing in the footage that we're seeing that will be there in the final product. And to be fair, speaking of the Chain of Memories portion as well as the Kingdom Hearts Recoded portion of Melody of Memory, those probably won't have too much substance to them, as of course we know that both Coded as well as Chain of Memories, in the sense of the worlds in those games, reused the worlds that Sora visited throughout Kingdom Hearts 1. Of course, a lot of the music and stuff that was used for those returning worlds from KH1 in those games returned as well, so really it wouldn't overly make too much sense to re-go back through them with the same tracks. Chain of Memories does have its own unique music in the sense of some of the organization themes as well as the actual Castle Oblivion theme, and Recoded also does have a couple of unique tracks in it as well, but I'm sure those sections of Melody of Memory when going through them will be quite short in comparison to the other games, as they all have their own unique worlds with a lot of their own unique music, not reused. I'm also thinking though that Coded may not even be included in this game, as of course the Sora that was in Coded is not actually the real Sora, but rather a data version. These are Sora's memories based on his entire adventure thus far throughout the entirety of the series, and Kairi is obviously connected to these as she is connected to that of Sora. We also get to see a bunch of colorful stars with the progression of the total completion towards them down the bottom of the screen. We have the total amount of stars right here, which is 350 45 to collect, with some other smaller colored stars down the bottom, a green, blue, silver, light blue, pink, and orange. Now obviously the yellow is the total, but I do believe that these other colored stars are representing the different Kingdom Hearts games and those missions that follow with them. I do feel as if the green stars represent that of Kingdom Hearts 1, as we actually saw those pop up in the first world map footage in the initial trailer, requiring us to actually have a certain amount to pass through the gate to then proceed to the next set of worlds. So I do think the standard blue is Kingdom Hearts 2, I have a feeling that the silver could be Kingdom Hearts 3, the light blue could be Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, the pink Dream Drop Distance, and the orangey one could actually represent both Chain of Memories as well as Days. It would make sense to actually throw Days and Chain of Memories into the same star, color, or category, whatever you want to call it, as those games sort of chronologically with the story kind of happen at the same time. We do know that at minimum you can collect a total of 3 stars during each world that you visit, as we actually do get to see the UI that pops up shortly before you head into your world. These are actually known as missions, which are specific objectives that you have to complete in order to obtain a star. The one that we can see here for working together for Twilight Town for the Kingdom Hearts 2 section, the first one, clear with 50% HP or more without using items, defeat 60% or more of aerial enemies, hit all ability crystals on standard or proud difficulty. And also just letting you guys know, the difficulties are represented by 3 different colored music note symbols. The yellow one is beginner, the blue one is standard, and the orange one is proud. Some worlds might also contain multiple songs as well, as of course we do see that this Twilight Town within the UI is currently selected over song 2, which is working together. We also do see up the top right songs cleared 2 out of 2, which means that page 1 is a different song, which will also contain its own set of stars, which tells us that we can get a total of 6 stars for Twilight Town. Now of course we don't actually need to complete the missions in order to clear the world itself. The actual clear reward will give us just simply synthesis items. However though, with needing to have some stars to pass through gates, we will need to clear some missions from time to time in order to progress. We've also seen the same world appear sort of multiple times throughout the world map from both of the trailers so far as well. And while yes, there will be multiple songs contained for some of the worlds, if the same world is also appearing on the world map, that is no doubt from the story perspective side of things. Just as an example, we get to see 2 Twilight Towns, but of course between them is the whole Dive to Heart thing, so this is quite obviously representing the first Twilight Town being Roxas's Twilight Town, the digital data version of it, do the Dive to Heart segment, and then we jump over to the other Twilight Town, which is Sora's side of things when he wakes up in the actual real Twilight Town. You'll also notice in the screenshot as well, we have complete and cleared overworlds. Complete will most likely mean that you have finished up all of the missions that you can within that world. Cleared just simply means you've cleared it, but there are still missions to be done. One final menu that pops up once you've selected the song that you want to play for that specific world is the difficulty selection menu, as well as displaying to us what team we're currently playing as we can see here, it's the Sora, Donald, and Goofy team. They are currently level 4. So yeah, it looks like we're actually going to be able to level up our teams. And by the way, when I mention teams, as we know, we can play as multiple different characters in Melody of Memory, or more so, multiple different teams. We have Sora, Donald, and Goofy, we've seen Aqua, Ventus, and Terra, we've seen Xion, Axel, and Roxas. So while it doesn't actually look like you're going to be able to play as whatever team you want to for whatever song, and the only reason why I'm actually saying that is because underneath what team we currently have selected, there's only one extra space we can move to, meaning specifically for Twilight Town working together right here, it looks like there might only be one other team we can play as, which I'm kind of guessing might be Roxas's team. At first I was thinking that only specific missions you'll be able to play certain teams on, but it actually does seem as if some missions you'll be able to play multiple different teams with. We've also got an item count down the bottom as well. It looks like there's going to be a grand total of 5 items. We can see the classic potion and mega potion, but there are 3 items that we've never seen, which are of course new to that of Melody of Memory. It seems like we'll be able to collect items via the treasures that you collect throughout the songs. As well, I don't believe we've seen any gameplay that shows any treasures, or from what I've seen anyway, there is actually a trophy that you obtain after collecting 100 treasures. So no doubt some of these treasures will contain all sorts of different things like items, as well as like synthesis materials as well. The three new items are Item Boost, EXP Boost, and Summoning Star. These all seem pretty self-explanatory, although I gotta say Item Boost is a little bit confusing. Do you use an Item Boost and then that will boost whatever other item you're using? I mean, most likely, if you're using that for a potion, it will probably heal you a little bit more, Mega Potion even furthermore. Same with the EXP Boost. I don't know how that would work towards Summoning Star, maybe the duration of time that the summon is active for. EXP Boost, increasing the amount of XP that you gain throughout each world for your team level. And then the Summoning Star, of course, we have seen some footage in this trailer of actually fighting alongside different Disney party members like Mulan here. We also got to see Beast. So I would say using the Summoning Star will summon the corresponding party member relative to the world that you're currently in. I also like to think that there is a chance that using the Summoning Star for specifically Kingdom Hearts original worlds may just simply summon forth King Mickey. There is actually a trophy for fighting alongside King Mickey for a grand total of 1 hour, which will of course be cumulative, so that's probably what the Summoning Star is there for, summoning forth those different Disney party members. Right next to the literal play button is a smaller play button, which I'm guessing will give us a little sort of preview of the song itself. We can see a high score, chain, and rank, so all of those will be listed once of course we've gone through it for the first time. It also looks like there is a date there, and then the very final thing is an excellent bar. You can see start to goal. I would say getting to goal will achieve you with the highest possible high score as well as rank, or nearabouts. Talking about the team stuff, once again, there is actually a button that we can press that will activate the team menu. No doubt here we'll be able to check out the different teams and the current progression of which, because of the fact that we do know there are going to be levels for the teams. This might be where we can check exactly how far through the current level they are until the next one is achieved, what the current stats of which might be, if it's going to be as in-depth as that, and may even be some other additional equipables that we can also put onto our teams as well. Within the synthesis menu, we can use some of the synthesis materials in order to create cards, which I'm not sure at this point is actually going to just be another collector's based thing in order to spend synthesis materials on, or if you may actually be able to equip these cards onto your teams in order to provide them with extra perks and bonuses. One thing that's sort of making me think this is if we go into the collection menu, now hovering over the card section, which is known as just simply collection, the information reads view your collector's cards and check your collector's bonuses. It's the bonuses thing that sort of makes me think that there may be some extra attributes and that these could be equipable. There's also another category within the synthesis menu that is a little red square with the crown icon in the middle, so this could more so be some sort of equipable item thing that you can craft and create for your teams. Not entirely too sure. We're also able to craft synthesis materials within the synthesis menu, just like we would be able to in any other Kingdom Hearts games, using the lower tier synthesis items to create the higher tier. And the other category right here is the music keys that we can synthesize in order to access other additional extra stages. Now the music stage keys that you synthesize seem to be different from the actual stages that you play throughout the main story mode of the game, which is known as World Tour. These are unlocked and accessed through another mode known as track selection. I would say track selection is where you can play any of the stages that you've previously played, maybe throughout the story mode, but of course additional ones that you can craft here in this synthesis menu. Most of these are specific character memory dives. Now the memory dive thing was displayed to us in the trailer. I think specifically it is Kairi's one from the Seams of Things, which takes you through a themed character, almost music video of sorts. This is playable, so there are inputs that you have to do, but all of the cutscenes playing in the background are just sort of like a compilation of different cutscenes to do with that character from throughout the games. There's one in here that isn't actually a memory dive, so there may be some other additional ones that are not memory dives. I'm also thinking that perhaps there will be some kind of secret boss-esque something in the format of like Melody of Memory that you'll have to craft, which will be a music stage key. I am hoping that, yeah, there is a Yozora one in here somewhere, fingers crossed. But in order to craft these, you will need a specific synthesis material. For this one right here over Sora, we need a Lucid Gem, and then we'll need the Sora Memory Dive MS material, which perhaps you unlock the specific character material or the material that is required for that specific music stage key at a certain point throughout the world tour or of course story mode. The other thing here too is there is a Moogle level. Like most Kingdom Hearts games, there is a Moogle level. There is one here in Melody of Memory, which is so cool. It looks like some specific items that you synthesize will give you a bonus XP towards the Moogle as well, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. I'm assuming that you will need to get to a certain Moogle level in order to synthesize specific different items and things. We saw more special ability and magic commands being utilized throughout this trailer as well. These can be used when you collect the ability crystals that are on the rail. When you're coming up to one, simply press triangle to utilize it. So far we've seen Spellweaver, Iris Arcanum, Firaga, Thundaga, Dark Splicer, Friend Kiraga in the co-op mode, which is actually cool. This is returning from the multiplayer side of BBS's Mirage Arena, and Black Hole. Some of these are, of course, specific to the character that you're playing as in the moment. As an example, of course, Dark Splicer can only be used by Riku, and it seems like Black Hole can only be used by Roxas. Of course, it is really cool to know that because of the fact that Melody of Memory is taking us through all of the Kingdom Hearts titles, it will be including all of the enemy variants that have appeared throughout. For the Birth by Sleep sections, of course, we will be facing off against the Unversed. In the Dream Drop Distance sections, we will be versing off against the Nightmare Spirits, also having the Dream Eaters as our party members as well, and the Nobodies are also in here too. At the end of the music rail, we see this dark portal which sort of looks like a corridor of darkness. I believe that this marks the end of the song. We got to see this in sort of better view in the initial first trailer for Melody of Memory in the Keyblade Graveyard section. I also noticed that there are some sort of themed orbs that appear in both the Land of Dragons footage as well as in the Hollow Bastion footage. One is themed to like Mulan, and the other one is themed to Beauty and the Beast with the whole rose thing. This could mean that either there are specific orbs that you will smash throughout each world that are actually themed to that specific world for, of course, more points, or maybe this is just more so specifically a summon thing. When you summon through one of the Disney characters in the corresponding Disney world, these special little orbs appear, and this is what harnesses you more points when you actually have the party member summoned. And just in case you missed it in my initial analysis for the first Melody of Memory trailer, yes, the whole themed command menus, even though they're not command menus in this, but I guess progress menus do return for Melody of Memory. Some larger and stronger enemies have a number over them which corresponds to the amount of times you need to attack them in order for them to be defeated. This Defender Heartless right here has a 4, Sora smacks him, he goes down to a 3, so that obviously means he needs to be dealt with a total of 4 times in order to be finished off. We got to see another boss, this time around being Maleficent in Enchanted Dominion. Now the interesting takeaway from this footage is the guard phase that I want to call it, that we saw during the footage. It seems like some of the bosses will have a certain guard phase. Now I'm a little bit confused as to what exactly you have to do while this phase is actually activated, as of course we see there is no button prompts on screen. We see a sort of thunder attack rain down and Sora dodges pretty much immediately as the attack is sent his way. So I can't help but feel, while I don't think we directly control Sora, we may actually have to press the square button, for instance, to dodge at the exact time the attack is activated by the boss. Because of course, once we come out of this guard phase, the music rail comes back with the prompts incoming, and it says Guard Wonderful, so you actually do get a certain ranking towards how well you did in that guard phase. The footage pretty much starts as soon as the guard phase is over, so I'm sure there's a lot of this phase that we didn't end up seeing. There's also something else that we saw during this boss fight too, which is known as the Dark Zone. When the entire music rail ends up turning sort of purpley with this purple darkness smoke going around all the prompts. This will most likely be activated on not just Maleficent but other boss fights as well. And I'm pretty sure what this is if you fail a prompt right here, you'll most likely take extra damage. I was sort of thinking that maybe during this time, of course we know there's no health bars on the bosses, it's just survive for as long as it takes. Obviously we've got the progress meter down the bottom, so it doesn't do anything towards the progress still looks like it's actually progressing at the same speed, and it doesn't look like your score is decreased or anything like that, so I'm going to say that this is probably an extra damage thing for the boss. The museum section of the game contains a lot of additional extras to dip into. We have the collection right here, which we were talking about before, the whole card thing that we can synthesize. We have the story archive, which it looks like throughout the game we will dip back through pivotal points of the Kingdom Hearts series, playing important cutscenes from throughout the different games. Theta will most likely work like any other Kingdom Hearts game, where we get to watch back the cutscenes that are specific to that of Melody of Memory. Jukebox, which is self-explanatory, a little system to be able to play a bunch of the different tracks that we will unlock throughout the game without actually having to play through the gameplay side, and records, which will most likely just contain a bunch of interesting little game stats. The last thing to talk about for the gameplay side of things is obviously the online mode. Melody of Memory is actually containing a fully blown online mode, which, yeah, it's been a hot minute since we last received an online function for a console-based Kingdom Hearts game, but here we finally are, and although, yeah, it's not a traditional Kingdom Hearts experience, cool to know that there is an online component. Now we have the competitive online modes as well as the co-op online modes. You guys should also know that Nintendo Switch is getting an exclusive online mode, which is an 8-player free-for-all. This is exclusive to Nintendo Switch. There's nothing really extra we have to talk about this that wasn't really already shown in the initial first trailer. One little extra though is that Cherith actually does commentate when you receive some abilities to use in the competitive side of things, and when an ability is coming your way from your opponent.
Tricks activated! 2 tricks headed your way!
The thing that I'm laughing my absolute ass off though about is I think a lot of us thought that co-op mode was only just recently revealed in the newest trailer. I thought this, trust me, I thought this, but no. As a matter of fact, it was actually shown in the initial reveal trailer for Melody of Memory. That scene where we see Sora and Riku in the Keyblade graveyard, yeah, that's co-op gameplay. It's just there was no piece of text saying there is co-op gameplay. So I think a lot of us were kind of confused, like, is there a section in the story mode where you take control of 2 characters, seeing as, like, when we look at the main single-player gameplay, where we take control of the teams, we're taking control of, like, 3 characters, right? It was quite confusing, so I think Square felt the need to chuck in a big piece of text in the most recent trailer to fully and completely establish the fact that yes, there is co-op. But however, it gets me excited that there's a co-op mode. I don't think that this will be part of the story, meaning that you can play through the entirety of the story with a friend. I would say co-op mode is its own self-contained mode with its own set of unique little things to go through. It's probably just some of the same tracks and worlds and stuff that we play through in the main story mode, just a little bit more redone for that of co-op play. It gets me super excited though that we're getting a co-op mode. I love the co-op stuff that we could do in BBS with the Mirage Arena, and then of course mission mode in Days, so fantastic to see co-op sort of slipping on back as well. And the final thing that I want to talk about is obviously the juicy story stuff that we got to see at the end of the trailer. It was only a little slither of something, and I'm actually glad that Square didn't show overly too much, although that being said, this was still juicy and was still something for sure, dude. Now obviously the big thing here is seeing Kairi, young Kairi, sitting inside the Arc device. Now, just for the people that have been kept out of the loop, this device right here is known as the Arc, and yes, it's the same device that we ended up seeing in Kingdom Hearts 1 all of those years ago in the End of the World. This device has recently been re-established into the Kingdom Hearts lore via a Kingdom Hearts Union Cross update that ended up releasing at the start of this year. This device is used to be able to move forward in time. Doing so, however, means that you have to ditch your physical form, which means that you travel forward to the point in time that you want to as a heart. You arrive at that destination in the future, but in order to actually be brought back into physical existence, you need an intermediary, some sort of object that is connected to you, as well as people who remember you, memories. Maleficent was able to be brought back into physical existence after the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. Obviously, we see her return in Kingdom Hearts 2 because she was defeated in KH1, using what we believe is the cloak of hers, and with Sora and the fairies having the memories of Maleficent, Sora mentioning her name in the mysterious tower, both she's brought back. Now, going back through the Ansem reports from Kingdom Hearts 1, and shout out to Super Butterbuns for actually bringing this up recently on Twitter, it's explained there that Ansem actually used Kairi in order to track down the key bearer, being that of Sora. He believed that perhaps maybe this girl would eventually one day end up leading Ansem to that of Sora. We do know that Apprentice Xehanort was conducting a lot of wacky and wild experiments as explained throughout the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret reports, and was experimenting on a lot of children. Yeah, it sounds wacky. You guys need to read these secret reports if you haven't already. Trust me, all of this stuff is going to be relevant very soon. Because remember, we do know from Birth by Sleep that Kairi was a citizen of Radiant Garden, Hollow Bastion, living there with her grandmother, which means that at some point, yeah, she was kidnapped. This dude was out here kidnapping gat-dang children. This of course all starts happening once Apprentice Xehanort ends up overthrowing Ansem the Wise, who at one point was getting way too involved into his own research about the hearts and wanted to lock the research away, but Apprentice Xehanort was also too tied up and invested in his own research. The overthrowing began, and Apprentice Xehanort completely took over. Kairi is one out of what seems to be a numerous amount of children who were being experimented on by Apprentice Xehanort. If we look back to the Kingdom Hearts Key opening movie, which shows us a little cutscene of Kairi's grandmother explaining a story to a young Kairi, telling her about how the worlds were thrown into darkness, but fragments of light found their way into the hearts of children in the hopes that the lost worlds would be rebuilt, makes sense as to exactly why Apprentice Xehanort ended up kidnapping children. Of course, this would later on be seen through by Ansem, the counterpart to that of Apprentice Xehanort, the Seeker of Darkness. We know that Subject X, which a lot of us are believing to be that of Skuld, is also one of these children, and everything to do with Subject X will eventually unravel. Hopefully we get a little slice of that within Melody of Memory, but when looking towards the experimentation side of things and the findings, quite obviously Apprentice Xehanort ended up finding out a lot more than he was expecting to find out through the experimentation of diving into Subject X's heart in comparison to the other children that he had during the time. Again, Kairi being one of them. Apprentice Xehanort's other counterpart, being that of Ansem's Seeker of Darkness, would eventually be able to meet Sora on the beach of Destiny Islands to set in motion the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. This is why we see Kairi within the basement area, I guess you could call it, of that of the Hollow Bastion castle, but it doesn't totally explain why Kairi is in an Arc device. This is where it does get a little bit confusing, and I absolutely just cannot wait to see where this sort of goes. Because as far as we know at the moment, the Arc device is more so used as a teleportation device to travel forward into the future. The hallway right before the Chamber of Repose inside of the Castle of Radiant Garden is a massive cell block, which now is more than obvious with reading the secret reports from Kingdom Hearts 3 is pretty much where they decided to keep these children for the purpose of the experiment. So this is where Kairi would have been held captive once she was kidnapped by Apprentice Xehanort. So the reasoning behind why exactly Kairi is within the Arc device is something totally different. It's assumed that Kairi was sent to that of Destiny Islands once Radiant Garden was thrown into that of Darkness, and of course became Hollow Bastion in Kingdom Hearts 1. Kairi can never remember how she got to Destiny Islands, but more so, rather than that conclusion, as we know sometimes when worlds do fall to darkness, a person can end up in a completely different world. Traverse Town is the biggest example of which, within the answer report from Kingdom Hearts 1 mentioning I will set her free. By set her free, maybe he's meaning he'll use the Arc device to send Kairi to that of Destiny Islands. And I know when I actually mentioned this whole thing over on Twitter, there were a few people saying, well, oh, does this mean that the girl that Lee and Sayax snuck into into the castle to see is actually Kairi. I don't believe that Saïx and Lee are referring to Kairi. While she would have been held prisoner down there during probably the exact same time as Subject X and amongst some other children most likely too, Subject X has been described as being 15 years old, whereas the Kairi that we see here is definitely not 15 years old. She's only 14 at the beginning of KH1. However, that's the big sort of takeaway thing from the sort of young Kairi scene that we got to see at the end of the trailer. I know the other big thing right here is, of course, Sora in the final world. And going back through the first Melody of Memory trailer, we do of course see that small little scene with Kairi being confronted by a robed figure. At this point, we're thinking either Master of Masters or, of course, maybe Lushu. She did say, "You're the one that keeps messing with my fate," so it sort of leans more towards the Master of Masters. There is something there that is brought up about illusions and memories, so I can't also help but feel maybe that Sora that we're seeing right there isn't actually the real Sora, but more so of an illusion. These sort of things tend to happen throughout Kingdom Hearts a lot, illusion-based stuff, so it wouldn't really surprise me too much. Nameless Star as well, going back to that initial trailer, also gets me quite excited. This could either be Sora or I'd like to think could even be the actual true Nameless Star that we believe to be the connection to that of Yozora, you know, the girl that he ended up losing. But surely there should be some version of Sora in like the form of the whole star thing as well within the final world, when of course we see Riku and Kairi going there. So one way or another, I think that within Melody of Memory, of course, these guys will finally be making contact with Sora. Whether he's like physically there, an illusion, or it's just simply his spirit in star formation. Now guys, that is my thick boy analysis on the Melody of Memory trailer. Funnily enough, even though this isn't a fully blown Kingdom Hearts game, this is probably one of the more thicker Kingdom Hearts analysis videos I think I've ever done for a Kingdom Hearts game, which is kind of insane to think about, really. Through studying more of Melody of Memory, and especially through this trailer, it's really given us a better idea as to how some of these different systems work, as well as sort of where this story is sort of going, especially with the Kairi origin stuff. I am most certainly more so excited for Melody of Memory with receiving this trailer than I was previously. I simply cannot wait. So in the comment section down below, guys, please do share your thoughts and opinions. I'm Cynical, hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.